it's time to learn once again on arguably the best subject in the world. Now, look, yesterday we were able to establish what a sequence is and also what a series is. So, we are going to build on what we have learned in the previous class. So, now take a look at this set of numbers that we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on and so forth. Now, we are going to use this to establish two key components. The first thing to note here is that we have a first number, and that first number here is called the first term. The first term, and that first term is usually written as letter A, indicating the first term, and that number obviously here is 2. Then another thing to note also, a key component here is what is called common difference. So what do we mean by common difference? So now, how do I know that? If you look at each of these numbers, for instance now, you look at each of these numbers from 2 to 4, the difference is 2. From 4 to 6, the difference is 2. From 6 to 8, the difference is 2. From 8 to 10, the difference is 2. So it tells you that the difference between any two consecutive terms you pick, so maybe you pick the first one and the second, you get the same thing. You pick the fourth and the fifth, you get the same thing. Assuming here was 11, it nullifies it being called an arithmetic progression because the difference between 10 and 11 would have been 1, or it's actually 1. Meanwhile, the difference between 8 and 10 is 2. But here, any two consecutive numbers you pick, like this and this, this and this, this and this, this and this, any two you pick, the difference remain as 1. And that common difference is usually written as the letter D, small letter D. So the common difference here is 2. So those are the two key things to note. Now we'll move to the next part. So we want to understand what the general form of an AP is. From there, we'll get the formula to this. So the general form of an AP. So looking at this sequence, let's maintain the same sequence we had used: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. But before we continue that, let me just ask you something by the side. Assuming I had something like 5, another 5, another 5, another 5. A quick question: is this a sequence? Put your answer in the comment section. Okay, now coming back to this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The first term here, which is our A, we've been able to establish that is giving us 2. That's our first term, right? Our second term would be, take note that this is the first term. So our second term is going to be our first term plus our common difference. That's what the second term is going to be. So the first term plus the common difference, which will definitely give us that the answer is 4, because the first term is 2, the common difference is 2, so that gives us 4. Now let's see how we can establish the third term. The third term, the second term to the common difference, because you have to keep adding it to the common difference. So that would now be, the second term is A plus D, and then the common difference remain as D. Now, if you simplify this, D plus D will give us 2D. So we'll be having that here will be A plus 2D. And now what is that? That will be our first term, which is 2 plus 2 times 2 gives us 4, and that will give us 6. That's for third term. Now let's look at the next one, the fourth term. From here, we'll establish what we need to establish. So now the fourth term. The fourth term is going to be this. The first term, the third term rather, which is A plus 2D, and then plus the common difference. Now 2D plus D will give us 3D. So we'll then have that this is going to be A plus 3D. And now A is giving us 2 plus 3 times 6. 3 times 2 rather, that will give us 6. So we have that 2 plus 6 will give us 8. Now, we are going to use this to now establish what is called, so let's assume I'm asked to find a particular term, and that term is very long. Let's say in a particular sequence, I'm asked to find the 50th term. I cannot say, oh, first term plus this and keep adding and adding. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to consume so much of the time. That's where this formula comes in. So the nth term, notes that that n indicate that it is unknown. The number of term you're actually looking for, it's unknown. So it is given as, if you see the sequence of what we've been doing, follow the pattern, you always notice that the first thing we'll do is that we'll first of all start with the first term, right? The first term plus, then when you now look at the next thing, if you look at this second term and third term, when we had third term here, what we had here was 2D. Because in the formula, in what we're doing was we're always having A to start with. A started here, A started when we had second term, A started when we had the third term, and A started when we had the fourth term. So in the formula, A must come first because that's the pattern it always follows. So A plus, now when you look at third term, here became 2D. When you look at fourth term, here became 3D, meaning that that nth term is always reducing by 1, indicating that this is now going to be n minus 1 or multiplying the common difference, and this is the formula. So now what does this formula mean? This Tn here is the term you are looking for. This A already we've established that as the first term. The n here is representing the position of the term, while the D is representing the common difference. Now, having established all of this, now let's use this to solve a question. Okay, look at this question quickly. Find the 15th term of the AP 3, 7, 11, 15. Obviously, the common difference here is 4 because pick any two consecutive term and subtract, you get 4. 15 minus 11, you get 4. If I pick 7 and 3, I get 4. Any two you pick, you get 4. So now, we are finding the 15th term. We already know that Tn is equal to A plus n minus 1 and then D. So it means that this will become T15. It's equal to A is giving us 3, which is the first term, plus here now will be 15. So 15 minus 1 will give us 14. So we'll be having that here becomes 14 times. Our common difference is giving us 4. 14 times 4 will give us 56. So we'll have that our 15th term will be 3 plus 56, and 3 plus 56, that will be 59. So our 15th term in this particular sequence is 59. So this is where we're going to end today's class. We're going to look at how well we can solve more questions on arithmetic progression in our next class. Thank you for following today's class. Bye for now.